Well, hello everyone again, and this is a continuation of the previous video, which was on the possible leavening of the Inca stones, which I think is a very likely way that many of them were built, maybe not all of them. And they all seem to have different builders, don't they? As if one builder took a very long time to build one wall, and another builder came along and used a different material and a different style and maybe a different method. And we're going to look at some more reasons why the leavening idea does seem to work. I do like it. It may not apply to every wall, but I do like it. And in the previous video, we saw this pie crust here, and I said, look, this does look like baking. And I think as the rock dough was rising on the ground, what happened was they would have had to press it down, because if you're using a soda agent for bread, for example, that bread, all the rising is done with the heat of the oven. It doesn't rise before, like with yeast. You leave it for an hour or two or three, or with sourdough. It's all done in the oven, and it's done pretty quickly. So it's almost like an explosive action, and literally the middle can erupt outwards. And so you'd want to be able to clamber back on top of this and to push it down again. So could this be what some of the nubs are? Maybe some poles sticking up out of the ground, or some cones or bowls even. And there was a frame over the top of this, and you could walk over it and you could smooth it out again, maybe cover it up again, and you could push that mortar all the way to the sides to make sure you're getting all the sides into full coverage. That could be something that may have happened. And there we go with the Irish soda bread. That's a picture I got off the internet. We'll cover this later in the video. We'll talk about the tartaric acid industry and the soda breads. But basically, you see that they even with cutting lines in the top, like a hot cross bun type thing on this massive scone, it's almost like a violent explosive action has occurred just by using soda to rise the bread. And again, I have to say, it does look very messy, this type of bread. It's a very messy way of leavening the bread. And I'm thinking, well, is this from ancient stoneworking, and they decided to use it in bread, or from bread to stoneworking? And here we see possibly one of the purposes of the smaller stones, because when you're making bread, it's hard to get it into the corners. It doesn't rise evenly. There's less material in the corners. Have you ever seen a perfectly rectangular shaped bread? They don't exist. So how do you do it? Maybe you ignore the corner a little bit, and you create another stone. If it doesn't properly fill in that gap, you cut it, and you pour another mix in there, and that becomes your little stone. And why are they all different colors? Well, surely that means they're different stones. Well, maybe there's just a slightly different mix poured in each one, because each one would have been a separate mix, made a little bit differently. Just the way you use a different amount of water every time you mix some concrete, a different amount of water. You pour it in, and it's not mixing with the stones next to it, because there's some kind of barrier in between, which is later removed when you take that rock and put it up on the wall. And of course, I reckon for a tall wall, lots of nubs, so you can clamber over the structure while it's on the ground, horizontal. That could be how they did it. That could be how they did it. Again, this looks like it was screeded horizontally almost after it was done, or while it was being done, with the greatest of care. And a different way of doing it. Very interesting. And another way of doing it. Again, very interesting. And here we have these things, and people call these scoop marks, or they look like it's been pressed down with some kind of tool or implement. And if there were little volcanic explosions of air from the rising material, you would have had to press that back down again, and then press it to the sides as it was going. And you'd want to mix so it didn't set too quickly, so you could keep doing this while it was being heated up. You'd want to cool it down a bit, somehow get on top of it, and press that back down again to make sure it all fits. And then you have walls like this, and I'm guessing it must not be that tall because you don't really have the nubs, which seem to have been the way you'd clamber over it to press it down while it's setting or rising. And then we have puzzles like this, which Sacsayhuaman, which the stones are so big you wonder if they indeed didn't carve them after all, because how would you lay these out on the ground in a three-dimensional style and cause that all to rise together? Were they risen as they went, going upwards? It's a possibility. And again, this very famous stone. And I think the purpose of this having all these sides was so they could actually put this very interesting serpent here. It might not be a structural purpose. And of course the little stones might be where the mix didn't quite fill in all the spaces. Maybe. Again, if these were laid horizontally or however they were done, you'd want to stick poles in the ground or something to clamber over the top to press the mix all down. And I'm guessing these stones, if they are done that way, leavened, they can't be that deep because you'd never be able to get them into position. And I have to say, okay, this is the Mahabharata. This must have all been done a really long time ago, because no matter what book I look in, no matter how old the book is, even the Iliad, 1000 BC or 500 BC, or even the Mahabharata, which is supposedly high technology, a delightful and charming city of many gates, surrounded on all sides by high walls and built by Visvakrit himself. And you look up Visvakrit, oh, he's a craftsman deity. And this is in the Mahabharata, which is supposedly has lots of high technology. And it's the same with the Iliad. It says all these great walls were built by the gods. That's what it says. The Trojan walls were built by the gods. We've done a video on that. So no matter how far back you go, they don't know who did this. So I'm thinking, are the Cuzco walls possibly 5,000 years old and not 700 years old? Because why does no book really describe how they were made? Okay, let's get on to the soda breads. Cheers. Oh, gotta hide those. Yeah, so hi everyone. So welcome to my 1980 era kitchen. Now, the reason I brought you in here today is, for the first time in my life, I'm gonna actually bake a loaf of bread. I've never done this before, but as we get into it, I start to realize, oh, this is how stone making technology came about. So I will be putting this video onto the normal channel and also onto my Blue Moon Chemistry channel. The Blue Moon Chemistry channel will also have other things like making cologne and stuff, and Roman concrete and all that, because we've got the recipe for that as well. But for now, we're going to talk about a little bit about bread making. So, and this how this relates to stone making, which is just amazing. So let's get into it. So I'm looking in the Cordon Bleu book. The Cordon Bleu is the French book on how to cook, and there's a bread book there. We need some more light in here. That's what we need. We need some light. That's what we need. So anyway, it's all very interesting. And what we're looking at is soda bread. Now, soda bread apparently comes from the Native Americans. And this is, I don't like that word because it's like saying no one's related to anyone, but that's okay. Let's get into something else. So apparently they, and this actually comes out of the mining industry, believe it or not. So what happens is this: the baking soda replaces the yeast. Instead of the yeast, you throw away the yeast, no more yeast. And you use baking soda, which is this sodium bicarbonate, right? And soda, it occurs to me, soda means, in modern chemistry, it's become compounds that contain the element sodium, but they didn't know that in the past. They called all these different types of salts found in ores, found in salt pans, different types of salts, they called them sodas. Why? This is the word sata, also known as sal, salt. This is a god. This is the god Satan. This is a god from Ossetia, from southern Russia. This is the god of maybe Brian Forster's Longheads, The Origins of Western Civilization. I have started writing a book on that. And this is therefore one of their magical substances. Now, apparently the Native Americans have been making bread this way for a very long time, maybe thousands of years. It could have come from their mining industry, which was in the North Michigan region. Just fascinating. And to make soda, to make it create the bubbles better, the carbon dioxide bubbles in the Irish soda bread, to make it, you add tartaric acid and you get cream of tartar and you get baking powder. That's how you make baking powder. But I put it to you, looking up the nature and geopolymer technique, which is a kind of, people on Twitter are doing this actually. You use the same substances. Yep. Because natron salt is where you get baking soda, 20% baking soda in natron salt. Oh, well, isn't that a coincidence? And to make and they also use tartar. You can use tartar as part of the process to make it even better, because tartaric acid, it gives substance, it gives growth, it gives stability to all different foods. It's used, it's used in food chemistry. So that's amazing. So these two go together. Now, okay, we've seen why this is called, it's called ashes of soda. So there's another Ossetian god called Ishtar. So Ishtar is the goddess or god of death. So when you turn something to ash, you turn it to Ishtar. Oh, see, all these alchemy words, ashes of soda, they all suddenly make sense when you bring in the pantheons of Eastern Europe, the Caucasus, where Noah crashed his ark. But everyone's forgotten. Oh, where does Western civilization come from? Is it Israel? Probably Egypt. No, it's ancient Greece. Oh, no, it's definitely ancient Rome. It's ancient Rome. No, it's southern Russia. Look at Dal, their lead god, dolmens. You look at Sela, which is Silbury Hill, Salisbury, the center of the Matthew Paris map. Remember that. You look, it goes on and on. It is incredible. So baking soda. And then we have tartar. Where does the word tartar come from? So I was looking this up. It comes from Tartarus, the underworld, where 200 of the Watchers are imprisoned. So this is another variant on the legend of the Watchers, the angel that fell from heaven, giving us technology. Okay, but why this? Well, it turns out it's the wine industry. So the wine industry worked with the bread making industry, worked with the cheese making industry, and then they thought, we can use these to grow stone, scones, ensconced. Remember my video on ensconcing yourself in a fortress of scones. Anyway, tartar is the wine crystals. So it could be the red wine crystals. They call it sediment, but it's not. It's crystallization. It's amazing. But in the white wine, people say it can look like alarming shards of glass, but it also looks like a word that sounds like tartar. It looks like tears. The tears of the imprisoned in Tartarus. So I think that's where this word comes from. That's why they started calling it after Tartary. It's just incredible. Tartarus. Tear, the place of tears. Fascinating stuff. So you put all these together, bit of flour, bit of sugar, bit of salt, based on the sealer, and you can make bread. So I'll make a loaf of bread maybe tomorrow, and I'll just attach a picture at the end of this video if it turns out. If it doesn't turn out, no one needs to look at that, so it's not going to be in the video. No one needs that image in their brain. Okay guys, thank you for watching, and this is a bit of alchemy. This is where alchemy comes from. It'll be in a book that I might publish this year. This is a picture of what it looks like so far. Have a good one, everyone. Bye-bye.
Well, hello, lovely people. And we're talking about soda bread today. The soda bread, we're going to make some. It's basically made of baking soda, and it's basically an ancient scone. And we know they go back to ancient times. They're not from the 1820s, as is said online. That's wrong, because we know that they are basically scones. People don't know what soda bread is. It's basically a giant scone. You look at they say, oh, soda bread is from the 1820s in Ireland. It's not from the 1820s, because scones, so they go back to the origin of the printing press, which is, the 1400s. So therefore, they're medieval, they're ancient. Anything that goes back to that time is probably, passed down from ancient times. So scones and sconced, this is an origin of the geopolymer. Well, hello people, there's a bit of soda bread. It looks like a huge scone, which is what it is.
Hey everyone, we're not done yet. I have my lab experiment book here, and we did terra preta a few years ago. I made some terra preta, Amazon terra preta. Same substances, wood ash. Wood ash contains the bicarb salts. So, right, and you can use the wood ash therefore as a substitute for baking soda. So anyway, my ultimate results were terra preta, Amazon terra preta, provided the fastest initial growth on bean sprouts. And very rapid initial growth, disease-free plants, large leaves, straight growth. But then I found that in the long term, for longer term growth, manure compost was actually better, and the terra preta mix slowed down after a while for the plant growth. But you could epigenetically control the lack of disease in the plant by adding the terra preta soil. So I found out eventually that manure makes for a slower release, but a sustained, strong growing action thereafter. And you want to avoid clay in the soil as well, because that really slows down the growth. So so terra preta is basically just ashes and ashes and charcoal and a little bit of manure, and that's it. But modern farming, we don't burn stuff anymore, so we don't use the ashes and charcoal so much, because there's a lot of burning is becoming illegal, especially in our household gardens. We can't burn anymore. They've gotten rid of the incinerators in the 80s, so it's killed off some of the gardening, and we can't burn the weeds either. We have to throw them out. So who wants to do weeding all the time anyway? Right.